We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant, Lori Daybell, as to the crime of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder occurring on or about July 11, 2019, guilty.
What were some of the sticking points?
The text messages, the romantic messages that were between
Lori and Chet Daybell.
Correct.
Cult mom Lori Daybell convicted in the conspiracy to kill her husband, Charles Vallow. Brand new this morning, we have reaction from jurors. And defendant Karen Reed's retrial kicks off with fireworks in the courtroom. Our power panel weighs in on the opening statements. Plus, the first witnesses were called up in Dedham, and things looked a lot different than the first time around. So how will the new ordering of witnesses affect the outcome of the retrial? Plus, this hour we're spotlighting the case of missing mother of 4, Suzanne Simpson, her accused killer husband, Brad Simpson, in court. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We got a great show planned, so let's get going. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but grind exceedingly fine. This ancient proverb was proven true once again, this time in Arizona for Charles Vallow. The jury found that he was murdered in July of 2019 when his wife, Lori Daybell, set him up to be shot and killed by her brother. Charles Vallow was a beloved father and a family man. He was also a successful businessman, and before that, a very talented minor league baseball player. He deserved far better than what he got. He was intentionally placed in a deadly situation by the one person in this world who should have loved him the most. Instead, she badly betrayed him, and now the world knows it. The world knows that she lied to him and conspired to kill him. So while she will go on to rot in prison, Charles Vallow's good name and loving legacy will live on. So my friends, let's continue sending his family our love, our light, and our prayers. While the trial may be over, the grieving never ends. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
First time I realized anything was wrong, it was just far too late. You know, she'd been gone for a while.
Okay.
Just seeing her pale face and blue lips and how ice cold she was.
In Florida, the man accused of killing 13-year-old Madeline Soto is in court today. Stephen Stearns' emotions hearing. It's on a suppression issue. It's going to start up at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. In Colorado, the defense continues in the rock-throwing murder trial for Joseph Koenig. Court's going to resume at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And in Massachusetts, we've got defendant Karen Reed back in court for day 2 of her retrial for the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. And that is our top story, as John O'Keefe's beloved friend Carrie Roberts returns to the witness stand in just about an hour from now. Round 2 of this retrial started on Monday with fireworks almost immediately in the courtroom. Special prosecutor Hank Brennan and defense attorney Alan Jackson faced off with very different opening statements.
You'll hear her words to firefighter Nuttall. She said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And it was at that time, with the words of the defendant, that she admitted what she had done that night, that she hit John O'Keefe. She did not call 911. She did not go back to him. She did not leave an anonymous tip. She left him. That's the data and the evidence will bring you the truth.
There was no collision with John O'Keefe. There was no collision. There was no collision. By the end of this trial, you'll conclude that Karen Reed is not guilty of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. There was no collision. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
So let's talk about this. Whose side do you think started out stronger? Let's bring in our power panel. Speaking of strong, check out this panel this morning. I've got with me attorneys Casey Early, Matt Timpanek, and author and podcaster Kevin Lenahan. He's got the YouTube channel Yellow Cottage Tales, and he wrote a book about this case called Storm of Suspicion, The Trials of Karen Breed. Welcome to you all. All right, so let's talk about which sides open you liked better and why. Kevin, would you start us off, please?
Sure. I thought we saw brilliance both in the writing of the opening statements and the performance of it by both sides. These are two of the best lawyers you're ever going to find. There are potential mistakes. I thought there was a mistake in the prosecution in perhaps overplaying the meaning of Karen's words in that video clip where she talks about, I thought John was mortally wounded, because I believe she's talking about when she saw him at the scene at 6:10, when she first discovered him with Kerry and Jen. On the defense side, they did a great job of setting up the idea that this was a conspiracy without using that word. However, they made numerous promises, such as the fact that they will show with overwhelming evidence that John went inside the house. They made promises that they won't be able to keep, because we saw from the last trial that none of that stuff is true. So that's the risk in over-promising a jury.
Right, Kevin. When I teach this stuff, I say never promise something you can't deliver. That's a big rule with the opening statements. Thank you for that. Casey, let me go to you next. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I mean, these are two powerful attorneys. You have the prosecutor and you have the defense attorney. But I do believe the defense had the strongest argument, because you have basically this division. I hit him versus no collision. So if the defense is telling you that there was no collision, then they're going to have to explain that broken taillight. And if that's not explained, you're going to lose credibility of the jury. They're going to go back to what makes the most sense. They're going to put together that John O'Keefe was hit and the taillight is broken. Defense provided no explanation. So therefore, the only reasonable conclusion is that he was hit by her vehicle. So the defense, although they came out strong, I'm pretty sure that they're going to zealously advocate for Karen Breed, but they cannot overpromise, underdeliver, especially on facts that cannot be explained away.
Right, well said. Casey, thank you for that. Matt Timpanek, last but certainly not least here. I was really enjoying all the posting you were doing on X yesterday as you were watching this live and offering your commentary about it. Your thoughts on the opens?
I definitely think that the prosecution might have had the stronger opening for this case. The reason is that the prosecution was talking about facts, talking about data, talking about the science of everything. Alan Jackson, yes, was playing with one hand behind his back, not being able to talk about ARCA, not being able to talk about third-party culprit. But still, it was very bombastic. You're not supposed to yell at a jury. You're supposed to lay them a roadmap of what's going to happen. So I think that Hank Brennan came across telling more facts, and Alan Jackson was making more promises that I just don't know if he's going to be able to keep.
Right. I'm in agreement with you, Matt. There were many things I liked about the state's open. I thought it was masterful. And one of the things that really I think would jump out to anyone watching this trial compared to last time, something Hank Brennan did deliberately and very astutely was not addressing these wild claims that the defense team made out of the courtroom and in some of their motions, about, and lots of their motions actually, about this conspiracy and him being beaten up in the house and all that. Last year, it was like Adam Lally tried the case backwards, and he didn't explain how it happened. This year, Kevin, I really appreciated how Hank Brennan not only didn't even address any of the nonsense and the noise, but he explained to the jury exactly how the Commonwealth alleges she killed him.
Yeah, the key is they're going to be able to focus on, and the state can focus on, data and evidence that is not open to interpretation. So the GPS shows that John never went in the house. The timeline is the big thing also, because that's the antidote to Proctor. You're going to hear the defense say Proctor's name all the time. But the one single word antidote that rebuts the Proctor argument is timeline. The timeline did not allow for that Lexus to be tampered with that morning or that day at any time during the day. All day it was either under surveillance or Karen was within it. So there was just no time to go take pieces of it and plant them at the scene. So yeah, I think the prosecution did a great job focusing on that. I would have liked to have seen them at least set up with the defense, set up the jury, the expectation that the defense is going to throw some crazy stuff out there and just focus on the fundamentals of timeline and data and evidence that can't be refuted.
That's interesting. So you kind of wanted to hear it. I was happy he didn't say it, but I appreciate the point, Kevin. Casey, what do you think? Do you think that Hank Brennan was smart to not even acknowledge any of that nonsense that they were spewing and just focus on precisely proving the elements in the case?
Of course, because typically with any second trial or retrial, the prosecution normally has a harder task because their hand was already revealed to the defense. We already prepared the second time around, so we know what their strategy or their theory is going to be. So in this case, I do believe that the prosecution was able to see what worked, what didn't work, and that they decided that the truth will be their mountain, unmovable. So when this case goes back to the jury, there's certain things that can be explained away, but just as my colleague stated, you're not going to provide an alternative theory, although you may be screaming at the jury or trying to have convince them the facts otherwise. It will not work this time around because the things that cannot be explained away, that is what the prosecution is focusing on. And this is why I believe that there may likely be a conviction this time around, because they're focusing on what cannot be moved and what cannot be explained away.
Great point. The facts, they don't change. Facts always stay. The truth doesn't change, I should say. The truth. Yes, Casey. Matt Timpanik, I want to ask you about something else, please. With the open, again, so many things that I thought were excellent. One of them, I know you picked up on this, how Hank Brennan started pointing out at certain points in the storytelling where he says Karen Reed was trying to cover it up. Matt, he talks about, initially telling Jen McCabe, I dropped him at the waterfall, don't know what happened there. That's when he says the cover-up began, and he wove that through. Curious, Matt, what did you think of that?
It was very interesting, to say the least, about this kind of, because it shows this consciousness of guilt, because what we've always believed is that potentially the defendant hit John O'Keefe very intoxicated, didn't really remember it. But she's making statements that it's like, do you not remember everything after the waterfall? Or are you telling me something with the conscious intent to try to deceive us? And it's like, do you actually really remember this? So it's going to be interesting to see how this case unfolds and what they actually have. As we saw, Hank Brennan in the opening was talking about the timeline down to the second. Not even like, he sent a text message to Jen McCabe. 7 seconds later, he was hit. So it's like, I think we're going to see a completely different trial than we did in the first case last year.
I'm with you, Matt. Hank Brennan is so precise. Matt, from being a prosecutor, that's the way you got to be. You have to try your cases with precision. You learn that quickly when you're a prosecutor, and we saw that. The marrying of John O'Keefe's phone data with Karen Reed's car data, I thought was incredible. Kevin Lenahan, you've talked a lot about this on your show, Yellow Cottage Tales. I'm anxious to hear what you thought when you saw it brought before this new jury.
Yeah, this is the bulletproof data. Now, we don't know. They may have new aspects to it from the chip, or more recent chip off where they got 8 gigabytes of new data. But even just the data we knew from the old trial, which wasn't presented very well to the jury. But we know that the vehicle data, which in the original chip off did not have any timestamps, it may now, and it did not have GPS points. But when you correlate that with the data, the Waze and GPS data on John's phone, we know that Karen took an extremely unusual 3-point turn because they missed a turn onto Fairview where John was found. And then so she does a 3-point turn to correct. We know what time they did take the turn onto Fairview. And 8 minutes and 8 seconds after the 3-point turn on the street before Fairview, that's exactly the way the vehicle data shows that that the vehicle struck a pedestrian. And 4 or 5 seconds after that is when John's phone moved for the very last time until it was picked up in the morning.
Yeah, you know the story well, Kevin. And last time, I'm sure it was frustrating because fully acknowledging the prosecution last time did not tell this story well. They told it from a defensive posture. I think because they were so sick of getting clobbered in the head with all the defense motions and everything they were doing outside of the courthouse. This time, very different. They're sticking to the facts and what they know. We're going to continue talking about this case. Kevin Lenihan, I know I need to let you go. I'll look forward to our conversation another day. Matt Timpanic, same for you. You got to go to court. I'll look forward to your post later on this afternoon. Casey is coming with us, and we're grateful for that and grateful for you this morning at home. Stay with us. When we return, we'll continue our talk about Karen Reed's retrial in the new ordering of the witnesses. Just like we were saying, a defensive posture last time, very different perspective this time. And just ahead.
For me personally, my thought is, what does she have to lose? Guilty or not guilty? What does she have to lose?
Jurors are speaking out after the guilty verdict for Lori Daybell. What one of them said might surprise you about how he almost voted. We'll be right back.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed.
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
And it's stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury.
They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict? We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
This is an attempt by the state to try to retrofit a crime that doesn't exist. This event was not a crime. It was a tragedy. Don't let them turn my family tragedy into a crime.
No. It was a crime, Lori Daybell. The jury came back with a guilty verdict for her for conspiring with her brother Alex Cox to murder her husband Charles Vallow. And this, my friends, is what's trending this morning in true crime. After 2 days and 3 hours of deliberations, the jury found Lori Daybell guilty in this case in Arizona where it's being tried. Our Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft there for the verdict and has more on Cult Mom's newest homicide conviction.
Good morning to you, Julie. No reaction from Lori Daybell after jurors found her guilty of conspiring to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Lori Daybell told jurors her brother Alex Cox shot and killed her husband, Charles Vallow, in self-defense, but a jury of 10 men and 2 women disagreed.
State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, CR 2021-001704-001, verdict count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant, Lori Daybell, as to the crime of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder occurring on or about July 11, 2019, guilty.
We spoke to one of the jurors who decided Lori's fate after the verdict. When you talk about some people needed some convincing, what were some of the sticking points?
The text messages, the romantic messages that were between
Lori and Daybell.
Correct. Just 3 days after. Yeah, so that was pretty crazy because that means that there was something before that. But and then when she was still talking to her brother, they said that she said that they were going to be like Nephi, yes. And that Charles was Ned before they got rid of him. Yeah. So the part where they said they got rid of him was kind of where we were all like, yeah, that makes sense.
And Julie, sentencing for Lori Daybell will be at a later date. And that's the latest from here in Phoenix. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks to Kelly for that report. And now that we've got a verdict, we're asking this morning, was Lori's case doomed from the beginning? Let's bring in Casey early and welcome in Franz Borghardt to the conversation. All right, what do you think? Was she doomed from the start, little play on words, as anybody who doesn't know, they were doomsday believers, her and Chad. They thought in July of 2020 the world was coming to an end, and now here we are, and she is still in prison. Franz, what do you say?
All right, so I think we can all agree that she was a part of it, that she's now been convicted, and that she did it. But here's the thing. Good lawyers might have been able to present a very good case on her behalf, and there was stuff to work with, Julie, on this case. So I'm not surprised. This is just another example, reason number 572, why you let the attorneys represent you and you don't represent yourself. Good use of the word retrofit in her closing, but just not enough, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, she kind of doomed herself here, you know, for her doomsday on Tuesday when the verdict came. Casey, what do you think? Was she doomed from the outset?
Before I tear her down, let me build her up just a little bit, because she did do a nice presentation for her closing argument. But let me tell you, when she was doing her closing argument, I couldn't help, you got to play that back. I couldn't help but to see the court reporter when she said, "Don't turn this tragedy into a crime." And that court reporter's face expressed it all. Like, really, we knew from the very beginning and that this was going to be a guilty verdict. If anything, I was surprised as to how long it took to reach that verdict. But then I'm glad that we were able to hear from the jury, because it's very rare that you go inside the jury deliberations to hear how they came up with that verdict. And the text messages that happened 3 days after, and then the text messages before, and then coupled with the overwhelming evidence, we know that this was not a self-defense case. And just as my colleague stated, she could have had, let's say, a fighting chance if she had someone who can zealously represent her with a law degree. I don't know why, for the sake, I mean, even the statistics are at the lowest. When you represent yourself, most likely it will be a guilty verdict because you don't have that training and experience. So no one's surprised at all.
Right, Casey. So this, well, I got to tell you, this surprised me. I think it might surprise you both when I tell you about the juror that we spoke to afterward. So after the verdict, there were two jurors. We saw a clip from one of them. There was another juror who said that he came very close to voting not guilty.
For me, it was the text messages that did it as far as evidence. And I feel like we uncovered some lies. I mean, many days she just was like smiling and laughing and didn't seem to take anything very seriously.
You know, honestly, up until yesterday, I would have said not guilty, but when the prosecutor, I don't know, what do they call it? When they give their
closing argument.
Yes, the closing argument. That's really there. So a few things she said in there, and when I looked them up today, I was like, oh, yeah, that's bad.
Okay, so the close apparently did it for him. But, you know, as the trial for Charles Vallow ends, there's another trial that's going to begin for Lori Vallow's former nephew, Brandon Boudreaux. Thank God he's alive. That case, an attempted homicide. He survived a shooting attempt. He testified against Lori Daybell in Idaho. You might remember he was married to this woman, Melanie Pulowski, who is Lori's niece. They're now divorced. And he said his relationship with the family really started changing once Lori Daybell became very extreme with her religious beliefs. And she was encouraging Melanie Boudreaux to kind of follow along on that doomsday journey. So here's what we're asking this morning. What might Lori Daybell do differently in the case involving Brandon Boudreaux? Another way to put it, is she going to represent herself again? Franz, what do you say?
I think she can't help herself, Julie. She has nothing to, I mean, look, guys, she has nothing to lose. She's never getting out of jail. So, I mean, if this is a vacation from incarceration for her, a trial, she might want to represent herself because she, again, thinks she is the smartest, most beautiful human being in the room. That being said, she's now tasted what it's like to represent yourself, and she might think, you know what? Maybe I'll let somebody else do the heavy lifting on this one. I just don't know. I just don't think she can help herself, though.
I think she enjoys it. I think she had a good time. You know, with her, I don't think she cares who she hurts, who she kills, but as long as the attention's on her, she's good. Casey, what do you think?
She's definitely representing herself for this next trial. I believe that she believes the jury got it wrong and that she's going to spend all of her time trying to do things differently, but it's still going to be her show. She's going to run it. She's going to get the same outcome because you cannot change that mindset. So she is not going anywhere. And just as Ron stated, this is her time outside of her cell that she's going to be in for the rest of her life. She's guilty all the way around, and thank goodness this will come to an end with this final trial.
Yes, yes. And I like that point about it gets her out of her jail cell. She's glad to be free for even a short time. Casey and Franz, I'm so glad we have you both on the show every Wednesday. We love having you two here. Stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit a break as we're at the bottom of the hour. Go refill your coffee. When we come back, here's what's next.
It is our sincere hope and prayer that Brad will find the compassion and courage to end his family's suffering by cooperating with the authorities to help us find his wife.
Accused killer Brad Simpson in court as his wife Suzanne is still missing. And what about the couple's 4 kids? We've got a psychology expert weighing in. Plus, testimony resumes in Dedham, Massachusetts in just about a half an hour. We're seeing a brand new ordering of witnesses, very different than the first time around. How is that storytelling going to affect the trial in round 2?
She called me up and told me the things that Brad had done to her physically.
Brad Simpson buys 2 bags of Quikrete cement, a construction bucket with a lid, heavy-duty trash bags, a 30-ounce bottle of Clorox disinfectant, and insect repellent.
This helps us come to terms with the reality that Suzanne is no longer with us.
This morning, the spotlight is on the case against defendant Brad Simpson. This guy is suspected of murdering his wife, Texas realtor Suzanne Simpson. Now, his attorney is trying to get his murder indictment thrown out. Let me tell you why. So Simpson, there he is in court Tuesday afternoon in San Antonio, Texas, accused of murdering Suzanne, even though her body has never been found. Well, she disappeared back in October last year after she was seen fighting with her husband. The indictment says that the cause and manner of death is unknown to the grand jury. Okay, well, they don't have her body, right? So there's no medical examiner to examine her body. Well, the defense is making the argument to the judge at this juncture that they can't plan their defense to something unknown.
When a statute contains an undefined term, indeterminate or variable meaning, the state has to tell me what it means in the indictment to put me on notice. Zuniga is one of the leading cases that the state cites, and that's their own case that they got to tell me what it means if there's no definition, and there is no definition.
The defense also argues the indictment is too vague when it comes to how the state accuses Simpson of causing his wife's death. Well, the judge has given the state 1 week to respond to this. Both sides are going to be back in court on April 29th. Okay, so essentially boiled down, the defense is saying, well, the case should be tossed out because you don't have a body. Well, who caused that body to disappear? Let's talk about this. I want to bring back in our legal expert, Casey Early, and our psychology expert. She specializes in family and relationship issues. She's also an author, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Let's tackle the legal aspect first, please. Casey, because this really bothered me. I thought either this defense attorney is green and this is his or her first case, or they're just trying to make the argument to see if the judge will bite and see if maybe the judge will toss this. Your thoughts, please.
It's the latter, Julie. I think what's happening is this attorney is not leaving any room for ineffective assistance of counsel, because you know that prosecutors can try a murder case without a body. So that's first and foremost. And you also know that even if the judge, let's say, quashes this indictment, it just gives the prosecution more time to put the details in there. But this is going forward, definitely. There's overwhelming evidence that you have this mother of 4, wife of 22 years, a neighbor witnesses this assault that occurred right outside the home. And then lo and behold, shortly thereafter, he's at the Home Depot buying all of these murder things. You have the Clorox, you have the tarp, and there's DNA on a chainsaw that usually cuts through metal. There's so much evidence that I'm pretty sure that the jury can show that a crime was committed. He committed this crime, even with the circumstantial evidence, because you have the motive.
Exactly, Casey. That's exactly how you do it. You present all the evidence, powerful circumstantial evidence, and then you can ask the jury to draw the inferences as to how someone murders their spouse. I have a clip from the prosecutor. Here's a little bit of the state's response. Let's take a listen.
The case law is clear that the state does not have to prove how Mr. Simpson murdered Suzanne Simpson. What we do have to prove is that he intended to cause either her death or serious bodily injury, and that he did in fact cause her death. The state's indictment tracks the statutory language for each offense and gives adequate notice of each offense charge. We've alleged intent and we've alleged result. We don't have the benefit of a body at this point for a medical examiner to look at and give us a precise cause of death, but that does not prohibit prosecution of the case.
And apparently the judge is taking all the arguments under advisement. I don't know why the judge didn't rule right then and there that the case is moving forward, but here we are. The poor children. Let's turn to that aspect of this. 4 kids this couple has together. Dr. Sue, I can't even begin to imagine. Help us imagine what this might be like for these children with their mother missing and dad locked up.
Good morning, Julie. Yes, I mean, this screams to me domestic violence. Okay, and so there was a neighbor that saw an interaction that happened between him and her. And so that leads me to believe that this has happened over and over in the home. And when children are exposed to this, many things can happen, even if they're young. One of the children is as young as 5. So it affects her nervous system. And with the older kids, he has contact with his son. Now, people may be saying, well, why is that? Well, because no kid wants to believe that their father could possibly kill their mother. So he's in a loyalty conflict, as far as I see, between his father and his mother. Years later, though, because of what they may have witnessed, these children may suffer from depression, anxiety, or have violent tendencies based on what has happened here.
Dr. Sue, preach. And I got to tell you what, we know for a fact that one of the Simpson children agrees with you. One of the oldest children posted to Instagram a while back saying, quote, shame on my community for not speaking about domestic violence within Alamo Heights. Women are marginalized by society and misogyny every day and are told to keep their mouths shut. Those who choose to remain silent are choosing to blind themselves from domestic violence in our homes. My mother tried to leave my father and lost her life. It gives me chills. Dr. Sue, we know in domestic violence cases, you know this, Casey, you know this, the most dangerous time for a victim is when they try to leave their batterer. Knowing what you know, Dr. Sue, about the facts, about everything, help us kind of think about where Suzanne Simpson's mind might have been. What might have she been feeling, Dr. Sue, at the time that this all came to a boil?
I mean, where do we begin? Panic, fear, afraid that if she does leave, that he will track her down, leaving her children. What do I do in that circumstance? There's no control when you are in a domestic violence relationship. You are being controlled by somebody, and all that does is cause complete and utter fear. You know, many people say, well, why doesn't the woman just get up and leave? Well, when you're filled with so much fear, or in many cases, as I see, the man is saying to the woman, if you leave, I will kill you. And maybe, Julie, that's exactly what happened here.
Right, Dr. Sue. And I always say, reach out to a domestic violence resource center. They have a brilliant way to get a safety plan for you. I promise they do, because sometimes, as you said, it can be more lethal leaving without the proper plan. That's just a fact. Have a plan in place. Speaking of the children in all of this and what they felt psychologically, they're also being impacted in another way in the court system through this custody battle going on. Dr. Sue, you know a lot about this. You do a lot of counseling as it relates to this. Apparently, the kids are with relatives right now. We know that Brad Simpson is going to be back in July for a custody hearing, trying to get custody of those kids. Talk to us about how you think the court will view their circumstances at this point and what the court may do to ensure they'll stay safe.
I think the court is probably going to rule against him because they want to keep the kids safe. There's a lot of evidence here, as we said, of domestic violence. So I'm hoping that they will keep them safe and place them with family. So please, family, step forward, because it is so difficult if they are placed outside of family. They don't need any more stress at this time.
Right, you're so right. Let's hope they stay with relatives. We've got the domestic violence hotline there on the screen, 1-800-799-SAFE. It's so easy to remember, SAFE. Dr. Sue, Casey Early, thank you both so much for the insight and the great analysis here. I know we need to let you both go. We'll look forward to you coming back soon. And coming up next here on Opening Statements.
What did she say to you? I hit him. How clearly do you remember her words saying to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? I remember it very distinctly.
Another thing different in this retrial is the way the Commonwealth is choosing to call their witnesses. The ordering of the witnesses, it matters so much. We're talking about it in What's Tipping the Scales.
No, you're dodging the question, David. You're dodging the question.
I'm not here to be interviewed. You've agreed to be interviewed. You told the police you shot him twice in the head. It sounds like you lost control of yourself.
Not at all. No, not at all. I could have killed everybody in that building, and I didn't.
You think you should get some kind of credit for not killing people?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Now for What's Tipping the Scales. We're moments away from day 2 of testimony in the Reid trial for defendant Karen Reid. So Act 2 of the long-awaited trial kicked off officially on Tuesday, and there was another very noticeable change from the first trial, besides the presence of the special prosecutor Hank Brennan. In trial number 1, the focus was quickly put on the family of Officer John O'Keefe when the witnesses were called to the stand. The first one up, Paul O'Keefe, John's brother. There you see him on the right in that picture in the courtroom. This is from yesterday. Let's take a look back at his testimony in trial 1.
Can you describe to the jury sort of what you saw as far as your brother was concerned?
I mean, he was pretty banged up. He had his eyes had swelled up. He had a breathing tube in, well, the mask anyway. Blood come down his nose, blood come down his mouth. But what really stood out to me was, the eyes. It was almost as if like there were ping pong balls under his eyelids. They were that swollen.
On Tuesday, the Commonwealth kicked off its case differently, starting with the testimony of a responding paramedic who pointed to what the defendant said at the scene.
When you looked up and saw that person and asked about any background, what did she say to you? I hit him. How clearly do you remember her words saying to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? I remember it very distinctly.
So we're wondering, how will the ordering of witnesses this time affect the outcome. Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. All right, Franz, what do you think? How is this going to make a difference?
Good prosecutors are always on the offensive. They will address certain defenses, but they don't dignify them, right? It's oh, that's silly, you know. So what I think we're seeing is he's leading with his best foot forward, which is what we're trained to do. Primacy. The jury remembers what it hears first. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Of course you're going to lead with that. This is a paramedic that has no dog in the hunt. He has no reason to lie. He has no reason to fabricate this woman saying 3 times that she hit him. Now, that said, I think what you're seeing is, I think you're seeing a different tactical approach to trying a case, to storytelling. And look, I don't foresee that. I do think that we will see some family members testify, but save that for the back end. Save that for the last notes of your story of, this is my brother, this is this human being. You don't have to lead with that. You don't have to lead with that. Lead with your best foot forward. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. I loved it. I thought it was masterful.
Right. I'm with you, Franz. I'm with you. You know, I had a hint that Hank Brennan may go about it this way, because from the very start, I know you picked up on this, Franz, when he started with the story, he started with it from the perspective of that paramedic and the alarm bell going off at the time and him grabbing his things to head out in the blizzard. And, you know, he told that story from the start, and it's logical. When we just humans, we think, Franz, you've been a professor, you know how it is. I talk about this when I do teach trial advocacy. You don't want to tell a story Quentin Tarantino style. You know, he's amazing and his movies are amazing, but in the courtroom, you want to go logically through and not backwards. And last year, it was backwards. It was backwards and sideways and upside down, the way Adam Lally tried it. Franz, here, Hank Brennan, you hit on something, how he's trying this so precisely. He's ignoring any of the noise. He's ignoring. It makes me wonder if remember Adam Lally called all the people who were out that night, like told the story about the bar first to try to defend what the defense team was saying outside of the courthouse. You think Brennan's going to do that this time?
I don't think we're going to see that defensive posture. Maybe rebuttal, maybe, but this guy's a Clark Kent, and Clark Kent at the end of the day is Superman. So Clark Kent is very shortest distance between 2 lines is a straight line. He's going to give the jury, I think, the gingerbread trail of what they need. And look, I think it speaks volumes that he started with what I believe to be the simplest evidence the Commonwealth has, which is her own admissions. Now the defense really is on the defensive, because they have to explain why she would make these statements. Oh, she was too drunk to understand what she was saying or to know whether or not she hit him. Well, that doesn't work. If she was too drunk to know whether or not she hit him, then she probably hit him. You know, so it's kind of, I like it. I like this manner. Now, look, let me say this. Trial 1, if he would have gotten a conviction, then nobody would have criticized his method of prosecution, right? It's the armchair quarterbacking comes from the fact that he didn't get the conviction, that he got a hung jury. So this prosecutor gets the benefit of seeing what didn't work and what could go right. So that's what we're seeing.
Sure. Looking through this trial transcript, you're right, Franz. We know Hank Brennan's poured through all of them. We've heard him many times saying, you know, I wasn't there for the first trial. I've reviewed the transcripts. He impressed me so much how he had everything upstairs. You know, that opening statement, it was just all up here. He's firing off the times, the data, all of it. Franz Borghardt, thank you for everything. We love having you on Opening Statements every Wednesday morning. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. And we're going to see you right after this break. If you liked Opening Statements, you're going to love Court TV Live. We've got more coming your way in just a moment. Share today's episode if you want. Click on the Shows tab on your favorite website.